For the first time, I open my mouth to utter this creature's name of power. You are Spiderzoid! Let all beware your matchless speed and deadly firepower! I am the Namer, guardian of the names of power. Before your world even existed, my people were an ancient race. Now they are gone, and only I remain, keeper of my people's history. Across the endless tracts of space have I traveled, to return to the planet of my birth, Zoidstar. Though my people perished long ago, and their cities were buried by the shifting sands, the machines remain. It is these that have brought me here to perform the last act of the Zoidarian race, the giving of the names of power. When my race was young and had an interest in the affairs of the galaxy, they built the machines, mighty engines of destruction which gave the power of life and death over the other creatures in the galaxy. The Zoidarians turned their gaze outward and laid waste to 1,000 star systems with their machines, their Zoids. But ruling a galaxy was not enough for the Zoidarians. It was not the conquests, but the battles they enjoyed. And though all intelligent life trembled in the shadow of the Zoids, my people battled on, machine against machine, Zoidarian against Zoidarian, in the further pursuit of glory. Zoidarian lives were needlessly sacrificed to the god of battle, and the race dwindled in numbers until the elders outlawed the Zoid duels. But they couldn't outlaw the Zoidarian love of combat. The Zoidarian pilots of the giant war machines were replaced by androids, and thus the heroic combat could continue without threat to Zoidarian life. Too late came the order. Too late to save a once mighty race from extinction, and now only I remain. Only I and the Zoids. And though my people created the Zoids, I have no power to control them. For the war machines have become the living embodiment of the Zoidarian thirst for combat, with lives and wills of their own. They exist only to fight, to ensure that their heroic combat lasts for all eternity. Now I stand on the sand-blasted surface of a world I used to call home, high on a rock, scanning the horizon for some sign of movement, knowing that out there, behind the sand clouds, lurk the deadliest war machines in the universe. It begins!
Zoid and steel spider shape, built light, fast and agile for the escape. War machine on 8 legs with lightning speed, Gurantula Zoid of the oldest breed. The beam cannons lay down heavy fire, like ray shot blast up those till they expire. Expert scout and espionage machine, Gurantula comes machine. Gurantula, Republic spy fighter, secretive cybernetic bot spider, beam gun spider, and traps for biter, spider type Zoids, stealth assassin lighter. Dark Zoids invade to claim Republic lands. Dark Zoidians with greedy eyes and hands. Gurantula expose their secrets all on planet C. Your stuff will make them fall. Dark army crushed, but new foes now come. Sanaba Bazempa beat the battle drum. Gurantula Zoids again into the fray. You stole the marine, but yet saved the day. Gurantula, Republic spy fighter, secretive cybernetic bot spider, beam gun spider, and traps for biter, spider type Zoid, stealth assassin lighter. Gurantula, Republic spy fighter, secretive cybernetic bot spider, beam gun spider, and traps.
I hear the unmistakable sound of an approaching Zoid, and I turn to gaze at the scuttling machine. Its bulky, armored body is supported on 8 slender legs. Its guns point directly at me. But I feel no fear. This creature is fast. So fast, even my eyes find it hard to follow. I have seen this creature before. It is the quickest of all Zoids.
Traps them all. Gurantula Spiderzoid brings them all. 8 spindly spiders steal legs to run out. Gurantula, the tarantula shouts. Gurantula, Republic spy fire, secretive cybernetic bot spider, beam gun spider, and traps for biter, spider type Zoid, stealth assassin lighter. Gurantula, Republic spy fighter, secretive cybernetic bot spider, beam gun spider, and traps for biter, spider type Zoid, stealth assassin lighter. Spider monster machine builds a space war, soiling inhibition to the fore. On 8 slender legs, the back of beast stands. Spiders on the scourge of the white star lands. Electric conquest, climate steel legs. Spiderzoid calls alien defender dregs. Breaking natural with hot, deadly laser fire monster machine vehicles from Spider. Spiderzoid passes the planetoid skykind. Mystery steel leg speed leads them behind the dregs. Quick and agile with hot, deadly laser fire. Monster machine vehicles with Bob Spider. Spiderzoid from spelling shorts for kind. Mystery steel leg speed leaves them behind. Body techno range of monstrous Zoid find. Foes to the Spiderzoids will be left blind. Stutterings fall, but Zoid war remains. Heroic combat of Zoids break the chains. Spiderzoid will face our foes on Zoidstar till every menace falls from above. Return to mighty blue moon, come to fight. Led by Reform, the terrible Zoid might. Native Zoids must unite under the blue. Spiderzoids to become guardians true. Spiderzoids passes the planetoid skykind. Mysteries feel like its speed leaves them behind the dregs. Quick and agile with hot, deadly laser fire. Monster machine vehicles with Bob Spider. Spiderzoids on the planetoid skykind. Mysteries feel like its speed leaves them behind. Body techno rage of monstrous Zoid find. Foes to the Spiderzoids will be left blind.
It is the never-ending battle between red and blue Zoids. It has been waged for centuries. It rages still, with no end in sight. I, the Namer, last of the Zoidarians, guardian of the names of power, keeper of the legend of heroic combat, have spoken.